Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to COASTER-net Update. We've got some breaking news tonight out of Doswell, Virginia, where Twisted Timbers finally opened up to the public, to the media, to everybody, well, not to everybody, to pass holders, and people got to experience Twisted Timbers for the very first time. With us tonight are two of those people who both work for COASTER-net. One, our illustrious leader, Daniel Westfall, the co-owner of COASTER-net, and with him is our newest member of COASTER-net, Jeff Goodman. Thanks, guys, for joining us here tonight. Let's get right into it. How was the ride?
We had a great time at the event. I think that the ride is a huge improvement and something that a lot of people are definitely going to enjoy.
Definitely lived up to its name. It's very twisted. That's been my traditional answer today, but it was amazing. Normally, I don't like extremely forceful coasters and things like that, and I just had a great time on the ride today.
Yeah, a lot of out of your seat time.
So, Jeff, to give us your track record, have you been on other RMCs? If so, which ones have you been on?
Well, I've been on Wicked Cyclone at New England, and that's the only one previously.
Oh, so you haven't been on a good one, it sounds like.
I've been on Outlaw Run, which you all know. I had to ride that one with Brian Bass. Sorry,
Riding with Brian's always a terrible experience. We know that.
Right, right. He put his arms up the entire time. So.
Well, we don't want to get it.
But there are two very different rides that this one, while it still had a lot of force, it wasn't like float out of your seat the entire time. But it did have a lot of airtime elements. This one did, just not like constant.
So, Jeff, how would you compare Twisted Timbers to Wicked Cyclone, maybe?
Well, aside from the barrel roll drop, which was a really fun way to start coming off the lift hill, you have just kind of your normal banked kind of turn, and then there's a series of camelbacks. It's actually very un-RMC compared to Wicked Cyclone, but it really fit the ride great. It had good pacing. And then as you kind of head back the other way and go through that curved stall, the cutback element, everything really does get very twisted. It doesn't have a lot of cutting through the structure, but when it does, it really hides where you're going to go next. So I felt like a lot of those turns were very surprising. Even after we'd ridden it the first time, it still caught me off guard. So it had some of the stuff I was used to and some new things as well. I really liked that.
Approximately how many times did you get to ride? Did you guys have a favorite seat? Maybe talk about how the ride varied from front to back. We know RMCs in general usually have a very different front seat experience than back seat experience. Maybe talk about, where you sat and what you thought.
Sure. Well, we rode once in the front and once in the back. I don't know if I would say I liked one better than the other. They were both great, but they were different. We also switched left and right. Mm-hmm. So we were sitting this way in the front, and then we switched sides on the back. And I felt like that actually gave a different experience too, because of some of those kind of surprise twists kind of threw you in a different direction. You definitely go over that drop so much faster in the back because you've got so much more inertia, and it really throws you out. A lot of hang time going through the barrel roll.
Would you so you said that you don't have a distinct preference? Because I
like sitting in the front for the visual and the wind in my face, and you definitely get a lot more yank going over some of those airtime hills in the back. So if one of those is your preference, but I really enjoy both of them. I had a hard time saying if I got in line right now and there was no weight, I don't know if I would sit in the front or the back.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have a great ride either way.
Yeah.
That's what I would say is a little bit different, just like physics on any coaster is, that the back is a little different than the front, but great ride.
Now, one of the concerns was that the ride looked like it slowed down significantly towards the end of the run, as you approach that brake run. Did you guys feel like it did? Like, you're a fan of Wicked Cyclone, and I'm not. So,
Well, that last barrel roll on Wicked Cyclone is taken slower than the last barrel roll on this one. But I kind of feel like going through that element on the slower side gives you a lot of, hang time out of your seat. But even when we were popping up into the brake run, I was still getting a little air time. It's not as fast as the front of the ride, but I wasn't thinking like, oh, are we going to make it? Or, is it too slow?
It didn't feel too slow to me either, but I can see why they would want to slow it down, because right before the station, the track actually has a little...
Yeah, there's like a little twist.
A little twist.
And
you wouldn't want to be going through that too fast. You really would want to slow down so that you can ease through that and not jerk people around.
Yes. Even the brake run is twisted.
Right.
Yes, some people were commenting on that because I guess the twist was in the animated POV when they released it back in August.
Yeah.
And some people were thinking that maybe they would take it out once the ride was built. But it seems like, no, that was part of the design and part of the way to get back into the station correctly. So it's interesting that it's still there. And like you said, Daniel, that's probably why, why they have to ease off. They can't hit the brake runs like a Wildcat Stop does or Millennium Force or IRAT. So maybe let's transition a little bit off the ride here right now. And move into the, the theme of the ride that, we got a little bit of the story, I think, through the teaser campaign and then when the announcement came out. But, it sounded like today through the, opening ceremony. If you haven't seen that, we have, the opening ceremony on our YouTube channel right now. You can go check that out. So how did that story actually manifest itself in the actual Q-Line experience?
I would say actually go back and watch the teaser, the story from the announcement as well, which we also, I believe, have up, because that gives a lot of the details that people were questioning today. And I got to tell people, well, go watch this and you can see the whole story about the apple trees and how they all got twisted and this storm that came out of nowhere with a clear sky and all this. And it's all very ambiguous, right now today. And you kind of see some hints at some things though. Like we saw one guy that said, oh, it looked like a meteor crashed, there. And there's this thing that looks like it's going to glow in the dark, maybe that's right next to the truck. And that just, adds to that, like, is it like natural or supernatural or whatever element? Was this like a regular storm or was this something else? So they've really let this be able to go wherever they want it to go and leave it to your imagination.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I got the general vibe that you're supposed to kind of fill in the blanks yourself and that it was supposed to be, too mysterious to really explain. But there was a lot of like evidence of kind of like storm damage. Like the tree outside had rail wrapped around it like a twister, and the building itself had like the corrugated panels kind of peeled back like you'd expect from a tornado. And there was like a tractor stuck up in like some of the structure, and there was like other props like that that was not like Wicked Cyclone, but kind of like Wicked Cyclone, how there's like debris kind of spread out. There's also an apple orchard in the infield, that they've planted. So there's like a little bit of like damage, and then there's a little bit of like industry, and then also the meteor and all these questions about what it was that caused this powerful force.
Those trees are in your on-ride photo, by the way, too. That's your background of your on-ride photo. So they have it where you can't actually stand right there in the pathway and get in the way of the on-ride photo, but you have the trees right behind you as part of the theme, which I thought was really neat.
Yeah,
so the on-ride.
So maybe in a couple of years they'll actually have, apples and stuff back there with the riders.
Well, and that's interesting too, because, as we went through the whole teaser campaign, like a lot of people were wondering where these clues are coming from. And now that we see the ride in its entirety now, with everything put together, finally unveiled, a lot of those clues that we looked at with the twisters, with the storm connotations, those sort of things actually make a lot more sense today than even when they made the announcement in August, that there were still a lot of question marks on what was going on here. But it seemed like they really kind of put everything together. I personally was really impressed by the twisted tree out front and the actual ride sign with the brick and the gateway into the orchard. I thought those were all really nice touches. It makes it look real classy in that area.
Yeah, it was a nice atmosphere in general.
The one interview that we did today, which not many people have seen, said the one interview said that was his favorite part of the transformation, was seeing the truckloads of blacktop leave the park from his office window, because he just loves the look of the pavers and everything like that, bringing back the old feel. So the park is really trying to do a beautification of the whole park and this whole area. And there's lots more that's there, too, other than just the ride, which we'll probably get to.
Well, yeah, let's talk about some of the other changes to the area. We know that they rethemed a number of the flat rides. They rethemed the Wild Mouse right next to it to Apple's Apple. So, what other changes did you notice in that area?
Well, the whole paver plaza, they said that they wanted to make it have like a festival feel, so it's much more open. I got the sense that they could use that area for gatherings in the future as well. There's a bunch of new food options that they were, showing off at the event.
Mac and cheese grill,
yeah, they have,
which everyone is excited about. Some Twisted Timber sliders, which we had gotten to feature at the announcement. Those are a thing on the menu now in the jukebox room. I think.
And chicken and waffles. They have
that was one of the big things coming out of this media event, I think, was the number of new food options at the park. Cedar Fair in the past has been kind of criticized for their lack of creativity when it comes to food. But it seems like across the chain now that they're really starting to try to change that perception and bring in different types of food, different food options, the sliders, the chicken and waffles, all the things that you just mentioned. That's only going to be good for the park because, how many people leave the park or try and go outside the park to eat? That's a huge loss of revenue for the chain. And now if they keep them there with interesting and exciting food options, that's more money, for the chain overall.
Right. And your next stop is the bathrooms, which are also totally renovated in that area.
Well, that's something that a lot of the Cedar Fair parks need are, focus on the bathrooms, because the bathrooms, I know at my favorite park are sometimes in bad shape. So it's good that they're focusing on not only adding in this brand new ride that seems to be pretty good, but also adding in all these extra options as well. How about the event now? What?
And retracking some rides too. We really noticed some of the wooden coasters as well. Racer 75 that got an update. We also rode Grizzly, and it wasn't as rough as it's been before.
It looked like the whole lift hill had newish. Maybe it was last season or maybe it was this season, but it looked like it was brand new.
But it just, that whole area back there that they really put a lot into, not just that plaza and that ride, but everything back in that area of the park. Go ahead.
The last thing here is what was your feel for other people's opinions? That you both seem to really like the ride. What did you get the feeling of from the crowd over there, being there live for both the media day and the pass holder day? So you got to experience two very different groups of people. What was the feel? What was the energy like?
I felt like most of the people who were there at the media event had a positive view of the ride. I know towards the end, a lot of employees were starting to ride the ride as well. And I saw more than one person, proclaim that it was the best ride in the world. So, I mean, the park itself is excited about it. At the pass holder event, it seemed like the other side of the park was a ghost town. Like everybody was packed into this area trying to get, rides and second rides on Twisted Timbers.
I didn't hear anyone say a bad thing about it all day. The closest we came was this girl telling her mom that she was too scared to ride it and she started quoting all of the statistics and all of the elements. And
she got all the marketing material.
Right. So that was the closest to a bad thing that I heard all day, was the girl that was too scared to ride it because of the big inversion in it that was,
109 feet
barrel roll. So it was amazing that even the kids picked up on all the marketing and stuff. They did a really good job with that.
Did you guys happen to notice, like when you first got there, did the ride seem like it sped up as the day got warmer? Did it seem like it had a consistent speed?
It was pretty much the same temperature at night when we rode it as in the morning when we rode it. So there wasn't difference there. It got warm in the middle of the day when we weren't there, and then when no one was there, right? And then cooled off again, for the past quarter event. So it was about the same temperature both times.
Yeah, by the time we got our first ride on it, it had already cycled many times. So if it needed to warm up, it was already warm.
Yeah, so that's good, because it seems to be the consensus coming out is that most people who went, every ride as they rode more and more, they said the ride continued to be strong and continued to get better. And that's something you always want to hear with a new ride, is that you don't want to get bored with it after a few cycles, that you want more, you want to keep riding and ride over and over and get better at every time. So it's exciting that is what is happening here. It sounded like you guys had a great day, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Any final thoughts here on Twisted Timbers?
I have one more thing. The interaction with the queue and just the area outside, the amount of things that you see, while a lot of stuff is hidden, you have a lot of great interaction. Kind of like how Rob Decker had said how he wanted Fury 325, for instance, to interact with the entrance. You get a lot of that with interaction with the entrance to the ride and the queue line and things like that. And it's really interesting having this track go right over top of you and that inversion, right by you as you walk in, and you can just look up and see the people's faces and stuff like that, which is just that really, we didn't get to ask him that, but that really seemed to be his design plan, in there.
Yeah, when you're waiting in the station, the whole front of the station is like ripped open. It's very much framing that huge bank turn that the train probably takes at its fastest speed. And it definitely seemed like they probably were like, well, let's make sure the apex of this turn lines up with the middle of this frame. So you see this beautiful view every time it goes. Also, we found an Easter egg outside. There's a nod to Wayne's World on the street. There's still a Aurora, Illinois manhole cover.
Nice.
Outside.
Nice. Oh, well, they changed the name. Oh, one other thing I forgot to ask. Did you guys get to look at any of the merchandise as you were there? Anything to note? Anything special? No.
We looked at
buy anything?
a few things on the way out that we were looking for, but one of the things that we found interesting was we were asking where we could find small things for one of Jeff's family members, and they said, "Oh, well, there's some Twisted Timbers like merchandise that's for little kids and like of all ages." So they must be thinking, that lots of people would want to buy that stuff. So I found that interesting that they have sizes from like 6 months all the way up to like 3XL,
Really? That's interesting.
So I found that to be interesting with the merchandise side of things, but yeah.
Well, any final thoughts before we go here, Jeff, from you?
No, thanks.
He said it was a great experience and he loved doing it.
Yeah.
Send him again.
I'll be honest. I'm a little jealous that I was like, but when I was watching everything come in today, it looked like a great event. It looked like a fantastic time. It looked like a beautiful day. What more can you ask for in life with a day like that and a ride? to open up a brand new ride at King's Dominion. It's just an amazing experience, right?
Right.
Right.
But let's hope it's not 90 degrees for Winterfest, though, when they announced that. That was their joke today. They said since it snowed for the opening of this in spring, it's probably going to be 90 degrees when we have Winterfest.
Yes. So as always, thank you guys for joining us here on COASTER-net Update. I'm, of course, Andrew Barczyk from Chicago, Illinois.
Daniel Westfall from Richmond, Virginia area.
And Jeff Goodman from Doswell today.
As always, ride on, Ride Warriors.